Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel Teaching Learning with Poornima once again. And today we will learn the chapter Footprints Without Feet, which is written by H.G. Wells. Before explaining the chapter, let me tell you something about the book from which this chapter Footprints Without Feet is taken. It's an extract from hugely popular science fiction, The Invisible Man. And the book, as I have told you, is written by H.G. Wells. He is a renowned English novelist and he is better known as the father of science fiction. All his novels, The Time Machine, The Invisible Man, and The War of the World, are hugely popular in science fiction world. This story is about a brilliant scientist, Griffin. He happened to discover a wonder drug, a wonderful medicine, which he swallowed, and after swallowing the medicine, he became invisible. He was experimenting on this drug for a long time, and at last he became successful. This book includes all the adventures of Griffin after becoming invisible. He committed crimes, he committed murder, he cheated people, he attacked people, he fooled people, he troubled them, and at the end, he met a tragic death. In order to have fun and prove himself of superior race, he committed many crimes. He wanted to have fun. He wanted to prove himself that he is of superior race, mastermind, and that is why he committed crimes. He became proud, arrogant. With the help of a tramp, a vagabond, Thomas Marvel, and a medical professor, Mr. Kemp, he wanted to create a reign of terror, a state of terror. He wanted to terrorize the people and make money. But he was betrayed by both of them. And at the end, he met with a tragic death. The story highlights the theme that science is a double edged weapon. It's like a sword which has got edges on both the sides. And it can be highly dangerous if it is not used carefully and wisely. Griffin is portrayed here as a lawless person. He is characterized with quick temper. He gets furious, he gets angry very quickly. He is selfish. And because of his selfishness, he has a criminal mindset. He committed all sort of lawless activities. And that is why at the end he met with a tragic death. Now let's begin with quick summary of the chapter Footprints Without Feet. The chapter started with Griffin after becoming invisible. He was first noticed by the two boys. Earlier, after becoming invisible, he was roaming in the streets of London. He was being knocked down by the cars, by the vehicles, by the people because they could not see him. But first time, two boys noticed that footprints are being made on a freshly painted staircase of a house. In order to save himself from a crowd, he stepped on the staircase of a house. It was freshly painted. And as he stepped on it, he left his footprints there. The boys could see the footprints. They were very curious to know how the footprints are appearing on their own because they could not see the person. And they were very surprised as they could not see anyone there. They didn't know that this man who is leaving his footprints is actually invisible. And this man was a scientist who had discovered a rare drug. He swallowed it and became invisible. Griffin was a lawless person. He didn't believe in following rules, laws. Earlier, when his landlord removed him from his house due to his suspicious activities, he set his house on fire. And after that, he became homeless, he became cashless, he didn't have any money. He was wandering completely naked in the streets of London in January. It was a chilly month in London, and he was completely naked because he could not wear any clothes. If he wore any clothes, he would be visible. So, in order to save himself from biting cold, he stole clothes from London store. He ate there, food was available in the store, he drank there, and he slept very nicely among the quilts. But he could not manage to wake up before the store opened the next morning. Next morning, when the store opened, he could not wake up and ran away without being seen. When he was running away, storekeepers chased him. They could see him because he was wearing clothes, and he had to escape only after removing his clothes. After removing his clothes, he became invisible again, and storekeepers could not see him, and that is how he escaped. Then he stole clothes, some bandages to cover his face, mustache, false nose, dark glasses, and a hat from a store of theatrical supplies. There was a store which used to supply things, props, and costumes for the theater, for drama. And he stole clothes, bandages, mustache, nose, and all. He covered his face with bandages. He put on thick glasses, false nose, thick mustache, and he became visible. How ironical it is. He experimented so hard, so long to become invisible, and now he is trying his best to become visible. Man is like that only. He attacked the shopkeeper and stole cash from him. Then he decided to hide himself in a small village. He thought that London is a big city and he might be caught by the authorities, by police, by any people. So he will be safe in a small village. Very less people will notice him and they may not bother who this person is. And that is why he went to Iping and he stayed in an inn, a small village resort. And Mrs. Hall was the owner of that inn. She was very happy to have a rich customer because Griffin gave him rent in advance. And that is why she ignored his strange appearance. He appeared strangely. His appearance was not like normal common people. His behavior was also suspicious, but she ignored because she got all the entire rent in advance. Griffin explained why he looked this strangely. He explained that his face was injured in an accident, and that is why his face is covered with bandages. And he also told them not to meet him, not to interfere in his work. He wanted solitude, loneliness, because he is working on a project. After some time, he ran out of cash. The cash which he stole from the shop of theatrical supplies, that cash was over after some time, and he thought to steal from the house of a clergyman. He went there, he stole money from his house, from his room, and clergyman could only hear the strange sounds. He could hear that somebody is there and taking money from his drawer, but he could not see anyone. And that is why entire day he was crying, he was shouting, extraordinary affair, extraordinary affair. Somebody has taken the money, but I could not see who has taken the money. Mrs. Hall and her husband also were suspicious of this Griffin. And when they saw the room of Griffin is open, they took the opportunity to see, to find out what the person is, what all things he has, what all works he does. And that is why they entered his room to know about him. But nobody was there. His bandages and all his things were lying on his bed. After some time, Griffin entered. After committing theft from clergyman's house, he entered in his room and he became furious to see Mrs. Hall and her husband in her room, and he started hitting them with the furniture in the room. He threw a chair upon Mrs. Hall. She was on the verge of getting hit, getting injured. She did not understand what was happening. She thought that there is some witchcraft or black magic being done on her furniture, especially the chair on which her mother used to sit. She was very sad and she thought that Griffin only is doing all this black magic. The theft case was also connected with Griffin only, because everybody thought that Griffin is some mysterious person, he is doing some black magic, and that is how only he could do theft in clergyman's house. There was also an attack on Mrs. Hall and her husband. That is why they all called the constable. Everyone doubted Griffin when he gave the rent. Before the theft, he was saying that he did not have any money. His check is going to arrive from the city. But after the theft, he produced cash. That is why everybody doubted that there is some mystery behind Griffin and he had only committed the theft. That is why they called police. The constable, Mr. Jaffers, was called to arrest him. Griffin got furious. When he got to know that all the villagers were after him, they wanted to arrest him, he got furious again because he was a man of quick temper, and he started removing his hat, his bandages, because he wanted to show them that he could get invisible. And then his face became invisible. Everybody was scared to see that there is a headless man. Mr. Jafar got very nervous because he thought that he was going to arrest a headless man. But he was a dutiful person. He was determined whether the person has got a head or not, he would arrest him. Everybody started running here and there. They wanted to catch Griffin. They wanted to arrest Griffin, but they could not catch because Griffin was removing his clothes and bit by bit he was becoming invisible. And after becoming invisible, he again escaped. After this, the chapter ended. But there is a long story still after this chapter in the book The Invisible Man. When Griffin became invisible and escaped the village, he met a tramp, Thomas Marvel. He made him his assistant because he wanted a person who was visible and who could help him in doing things which he could not do after becoming invisible. And he went to the same village again because he wanted to recover his records of his experiments. He just ran away like that only, and he could not take his things with him. That is why he went again to take his things, all the records of his experiments, but Marvel betrayed him. He stole all his notes and he informed the police. Griffin again had to escape from police and he took shelter in the house of Mr. Kemp. He happened to be his professor from medical school. Griffin thought that Mr. Kemp would definitely understand his problem because he has got scientific bent. So he would definitely appreciate his discovery. He revealed everything about his discovery, his miserable condition, also his plan, reign of terror. And as per his plan, this reign of terror, he would use his invisibility to terrorize the nation, the people, and thus he would make money. But Mr. Kemp, being an ethical person, being a lawful person, he was unwilling to support. He found this proposal insane, mad proposal, and he said that he would not help him. He also informed the authorities, the police, about Griffin. Griffin again became furious. He escaped the police and he announced openly that Kemp would be the first one to get murdered under his reign of terror. And Kemp was not threatened. He didn't feel threatened. He was a very cool-headed person. He accepted the challenge and he said, okay, if you want to catch me, I'm there. You just catch me. And he offered himself as a bait, as a person ready to be caught because he wanted to trap Griffin. The police came. Local people also got to know that there is a person, Griffin, who wanted to create a reign of terror, who is a lawless person. So everybody joined to catch Griffin. And everybody wanted to save Mr. Kemp also. But after a long struggle, Griffin was shot. He started bleeding. And when he started bleeding, he became visible. He received fatal injuries and at the end he died. Marvel kept safe with him all the notes of Griffin, but these notes were of no use to him. He could not use them. He was not scientist. He was not educated also. But with the help of stolen money, he became a successful businessman. And thus, the story of the book ended. After the story, let's understand the character of Griffin. Griffin, as a scientist, was a wonderful and brilliant scientist. He could have been an asset to the world and the society, to his nation and the world. He could have used his discovery for great purposes, for noble purposes, for the purpose of security. His brilliant mind, studies, research, and experiment made it possible for him to discover a rare drug which made him invisible. He could use this gift of invisibility for good purpose, to help people, to secure the nation. It could have proved to be path breaking, and it could have been used for good of entire mankind. But Griffin, as a person, was a lawless person. He was irresponsible. He was selfish. He only thought about himself. He used his invisibility to please himself, to make himself rich, to trouble people, to kill people, to terrorize them. He was a lawless person. He didn't believe in following laws, though he was a brilliant scientist. He was a man of crooked mind. His mind was crooked. He did not think of good things. He was a man of hot temper. He used to get furious, angry very quickly, and selfish temperament. Due to this selfish intentions only, he stole from people. He stole from shops. He attacked them to steal money. He hurt people. He attacked them. He killed also. He committed crimes. He committed murder. And he did illegal things. All the illegal things which are not allowed as per the rules and regulations, law and order. And at the end, he had to meet with a tragic fate. And he died a sad death. So we very well understand the message of the chapter and the story, that science is a double-edged weapon. It is highly dangerous if it is not used carefully and wisely. And science can be a gift also if we use it for noble purposes. I hope you have understood the chapter. Thank you. Keep learning with me. Keep watching my channel. All the best. Bye-bye.